All right, guys, back again. Episode 30 of the Joe Nick Fight Talk podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, one of my favorite personalities in professional boxing. We have Ray Flores, a part of PBC, and also Triller as well. Ray, thank you so much for joining.
What's up, Joe? How's everything, man?
Good, good, man. I mean, it's getting warmer and warmer in Philly, so I'm loving it.
Hey, it's a great thing, man. I'm feeling good vibes across the country.
Yes, yes, same here. Well, Ray, my first question I have, so we usually have like followers and stuff of all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask about your background. Like, how did you get into broadcasting and some of your internships and all?
Yeah, so what I started off as doing local TV in East Chicago, Indiana. So I'm an old school boxing and MMA guy. If you remember Angel Man Freddy,
Hmm.
who fought the late great Arturo Gatti, actually beat Gatti on HBO Boxing After Dark. And I was from the same city as Angel Man Freddy and of East Chicago, Indiana. But I started growing up and I was doing local TV, like public access TV. So I'd be doing high school football games, basketball games. And then there was a local fighter that was bursting onto the MMA scene named Miguel Torres. And Miguel Torres, he was the WC bantamweight champion of the world, fought in the UFC as well. He was top 5 UFC bantamweights. And I started following him around, doing an interview with him to, just do a community piece on what this guy was doing. From there, I asked him, he cornered Stephan Bonner in the Ultimate Fighter finale against Forrest Griffin. That's, I think, the most influential and impactful UFC fight of all time because that set the world on fire on Spike TV. So
Yes.
for me, I saw Miguel in the corner of Bonner. I called him up. I'm like, hey, do you have a fight coming up locally? He's like, yeah, in a few weeks. So what we would do is we would sit up in the upper tank of the Hammond Civic Center. I had one camera. I'd plug my XLR mic into the camera and I'd call the fight from the balcony dead center and we would show it a week later on public access television. That's what I did when I was a senior in high school. Then I went to Columbia College in Chicago, and I had a mentor who gave me an MMA and a boxing radio show because I was always talking about fighting in the hallways. And
Great.
she called me and she's like, "Hey, her name is Cheryl Morton Langston. Really changed my life because she's like, I want you to do a radio show on it. You're always talking about it." So did about 6 months of that. An MMA promoter called me up because I was interviewing his fighters promoting the show. And he's like, can you ring announce for me? I'm like, yeah, no problem. It pays $200. At the time in college kid, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm making big money here, this and that. So I think I was like 20 years old and did in my first MMA show for Joe Goitia Total Fight Challenge. And then honestly just kind of built from there. Did a lot of shows in MMA and boxing in the Chicagoland area. And then, went overseas to work for 10th Legion Championship Fighting, MMA promotion. Started getting together with Golden Boy. I filled in for Joe Martinez in late 2011, 2012. Did solo book sale for them in 11, 12, and 13. Thanks to Joe, I was able to do Mayweather undercards. I did Mayweather Canelo undercards. Then I got with Artie Palullo, a Philadelphia guy of Banner Promotions in 2013, doing ESPN Friday Night Fights. And thanks to Artie, I made my HBO boxing debut. In late 2014, as I was doing Mayweather Maidana, Tom Brown's wife, Sandy Goosen Brown, happened to walk into the MGM Grand when I was ring announcing the undercards for Mayweather Maidana, the first one. And she goes, "Who's that voice? Tom, you have to, you should hire this guy." So I got one of the representatives from TGB Promotions. They got my information. December of 2014, I did the ESPN. It was like a bunch of champions on the show, like former world champion, Night of Champions is what it was called.
Yeah.
And I did that show the week after I did that show. Tom saw me at Pachanga and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing next Friday?" I'm like, "Well, really nothing." He goes, "All right." He goes, "I'm hiring you for Showbox. I'll see you in Seattle next week." And then PBC was born in March of 15. Tom brought me on in June of 15 to do press conference stuff, to be his press conference host, along with his daughter, Brittany Goosen Brown. And then I got with PBC officially in July of 15. And then the rest has been history ever since.
That is awesome, man. That is a great journey because, like, for somebody like me, I'm in my late 20s, so like I definitely want to, try to get into the boxing game. So like I've worked some of the club shows. I was thankful enough to work with Michelle Rosado. She's known as Raging Babe, so she's fantastic to work with. I've worked with Bam Boxing for a couple shows, which is Brittany Rogers that works under Russell Peltz and all. And then I just started a podcast. So it was probably the only positive of the whole pandemic. Just like my very first guest was Cool Boy Steph, aka Scooter, Stephen Fulton Jr. And then it just took off from there. So like I'm building like a good networking with a lot of the young fighters coming up here from Philly and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it seems like a hell of a journey that you've been on.
I mean, I've been at this. It's funny because when I did Triller a couple weeks ago,
Yes.
about 2 weeks ago, and I was looking, I'm like, here I am in the middle of April of 2021. My first MMA fight that I called for Miguel Torres was at the end of April in 2005. So this has been nearly a 16-year journey for me. And every single show I learn a lot from. And the one thing when people ask me, what advice would you give? And my whole thing is just get reps in because, the fight business is so different and so unique. And you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about fighters. You learn about arenas. You learn about trainers. You learn about TV, everything. I mean, and I'm still learning and grow so much, especially with the people that I work with and I work for. So it's all repetition. The more you do, the better you're going to be at it. And the bottom line is that you have to have a passion for combat sports. If this isn't what you do, what you love, if this doesn't make you excited to wake up in the morning, then do something else because this is not a regular lifestyle that we are leading. And you know what? It is the greatest job in the world because I'm fortunate. It's like I said this a couple of days ago. It's like I'm too blessed to be stressed. When people are like, oh, the workload, this and that. Well, yeah, but you know what? I love this.
Yes.
The busier, the better. Like I'm all about it. My only thing is that I got to be able to get a workout in the morning and have my coffee. Other than that, I'm good, man.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know. I mean, like even for like people, that are watching this don't understand. So like, Ray hit it on the ball. If you're not passionate, like obviously like, if you want to work in baseball, well, like if you're working in baseball and your heart's not in it, like obviously like would you want to sit through a 12-hour day setting up for media stuff? And then on top of that, you guys sit for like 3.5 hours for a whole entire baseball game. I mean, yeah, it's all about passion and yeah, this is crazy.
And too many people do things just for the money. And I'm of the belief is that like, yeah, I believe that you should take care of yourself and your family and look out for your loved ones. But at the end of the day, if you do something that you love and you are so passionate about it and you work hard and you give 120%, you put out positive vibes to the universe and everything else, the money will come. It may take a little while,
Yes.
but it will come and you will find yourself in a position where you're like, man, this is eclipsed even my wildest imagination. And then your goals just keep getting even further. You're like, okay, I hit this point, but I want to go here. And then it just kind of spurns off all over the place. And it just gets better because you're doing what you love and you're being totally authentic and genuine.
Yes, of course. Now, obviously, you're very fortunate to work under, one of the powerhouse boxing, companies that are, out right now because it's usually them or Top Rank. But like, what's it like to work with PBC Daily? They have a ton of great fighters and great prospects and all.
It's great because aside from the fighters are awesome and they're fun to deal with. And I've kind of, I've been with PBC since July of 15 or, June of 15 doing pressers and stuff. So I've watched a lot of these guys grow and develop and evolve. And I've been on the road with these guys all over the place, crisscross the country, very fortunate, knock on wood here, to be able to do that. And, I work with Tom Brown, Brittany Goosen Brown, Kelly Swanson, Tim Smith, the entire crew, Louis DeCubas Jr., who's brilliant, and all the matchmakers and everybody. I mean, I learn a lot from them. And it's just wonderful to be a part of an organization and an entity that loves to put on quality fights and that is so focused on taking care of the fighters and making sure the fans get their money's worth when they watch a PBC event. And I'm excited about what the future has to hold.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's also, I mean, like 2021, like I felt like after that Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez fight, I thought we were going to see like maybe some noise out of the 140 because like I thought we were going to get back to like the 80s where, like Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Hearns all fought each other and stuff. So like I'm kind of hoping that we get that from like Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. So that would be awesome to see. And then Tiafimo, of course. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that the contract stuff gets worked out. But we'll see what happens with that. Like, is that something that you would definitely want to see? Like, not only as like working for PBC, but also like as a boxing fan yourself.
I think that with the way that the pandemic is starting, we're starting to get past it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're starting to turn that corner, and we're getting live attendance back at events. I mean, the UFC just did a sold out house in Jacksonville. That was great to see. And I didn't hear any bad repercussions from it. So it seemed like a success overall. I think we're going to get bigger crowds. And I think with that comes more money for the gate. Mm-hmm. And that means more to divide amongst the fighters. So without a live attendance, that kills millions of dollars from fighters' pockets. So now that fans are coming back, I think it is more lucrative for the fighters to step inside the ring against these big matchups. I think we would have gotten big matchups last year had the pandemic not happened, because I worked Wilder Fury 2, and it was PBC and Top Rank, and they saw eye to eye. They were on the same page. Everyone was working in unison together. Now, were they all best friends? No, but that's business. Everyone was on, really seeing eye to eye, and that's all you can ask for. I think we would have gotten more crossover fights between PBC and Top Rank had COVID-19 happen. I think we just need one crossover fight, and then that momentum builds again, because it's easy for people and entities to stick with fights in-house. That's easy. And it doesn't, you don't have to hassle or deal with a property or an entity or people that you aren't totally familiar with. So I understand why they do that stuff, but I think we're going to start to see crossover fights, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'm very excited for that too. Like I'm really hoping, I feel like the first big crossover fight, and I hope I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, but I would really love to see Terrence Crawford fight like an Earl Spence, or even if it's a Sean Porter too. Like I would love to see that, and maybe that will start all the crossovers and stuff too. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I've been with Sean all week, here for Ruiz and Areola, and I can tell you this. Sean wants that fight.
Yes.
Crawford. He wants it. He wants it bad. And I think it'd be a tremendous fight. I think it would be a legacy fight, Joe, for both guys.
Yes.
Because I don't think that Crawford's ever been tested to the degree that Sean Porter can push him. And I've never seen Sean Porter in a boring fight in my life.
Same.
That's why I think, look, the bottom line, in my opinion, is that Top Rank, who has the rights to Terrence Crawford being the champion, they have to make sure that the bottom line is good for both. Because personally, I've only heard hearsay things, but I think that Sean Porter's guarantee has to be lucrative enough for him to take that risk.
Yes.
So if the money's there, then why not give it to Porter? Crawford's going to get paid. I think the pay-per-views on that fight would do very well, because Crawford's ready to make that next step in his career. And Sean Porter's a guy who is going to push him and could beat Crawford.
Yes.
So that fight, to me, is a home run.
Yeah. It is great. And then also I find it funny that, this was in 2020. So this was like before the pandemic. Like Boots had like a little fight, and he was on the undercard of Clarissa Shields, and it was funny how Crawford and Shakur Stevenson were just all buddy with Boots, because they know that he's coming. So it's good to try to be buddy with him now.
He's coming, and he's coming fast. He is a monster.
He's insane.
And you can say this, and you can put a headline on this. There is no bigger prospect in the sport that I am higher on than Boots Ennis. This kid is a budding superstar. What he did to Chris Van Heerden before the accidental head was like, nobody does that to Van Heerden. Nobody does that to Sergey Lipinets. This guy is eviscerating his opponents, and he does it in such spectacular fashion. I don't see any holes in his game at all.
Wow.
And I'm looking and trying to be the boxing purist, right, from my standpoint, because I've watched a lot of fights and even talking to trainers and people that I know, and they can't find any glaring weakness or flaw in him. That says something.
Yeah, and like I was telling you off air, Ray, and I did have you laughing when I was saying, like, I swear to God that his father definitely used his two older brothers as like a guinea pig, and he just created a monster at whatever age he was able to put them boxing gloves on, and he just became the perfect fighter. I personally, like, I'm not saying it because me and Nick are from Philly, but I don't foresee him losing for a very long time. It's just unbelievable. He's so focused. He's always in the gym. He's always posted on Instagram. He's running down Kelly Drive, which is like a famous area where all the boxers run and stuff in Philly, which kind of leads like to the art museum, the Rocky Steps. He's running every day. He's in shape. I never see him do anything stupid or post anything funny. He just breathes boxing. Like, he is a machine. He's one of the best switch hitters in the game. It's crazy.
He's special. What's up, Nick? What's going on, man?
Yeah, this is Nick.
Little late.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Ray.
Yeah, this is Ray, Nick. He's an awesome guy. He's a great personality on there, and also he was on Triller for the famous Jake Paul fight.
I know. Yeah, the voices coming back to me. I watched. You couldn't help but watch, man. It's great.
Yes. Yeah, like that leads to our next question, Ray. So, we see a little bit of a different personality from you because you kind of let your hair down a little bit on a Triller. So, like, it's like awesome to see you on Instagram. You're hanging out with Snoop Dogg, and then you hang out with Pete Davidson. Like, what is that like? Just to be there, calling it, seeing all the concerts and stuff. It's so crazy. It's awesome.
Listen, Joe and Nick, it was the coolest freaking house party I've ever been to in my life, with boxing in the middle, and I'm working, right? I mean, so Ryan Kavanaugh, by the way, I love Ryan Kavanaugh from Triller, because we're getting ready to go on the air maybe a half hour before, and I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what is your idea here? And he goes, I want you to be yourself. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me out. I'm like, what do you mean be yourself? He's like, I want you to be totally loose and relaxed. He goes, if you want to curse, go ahead and curse. And I looked at him like, curse on the air? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah. He's like, he goes, you can say whatever you want. And then I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, there are no rules. He goes, oh, by the way, he goes, it was like my body language, because I was focused.
Right.
Focused on every show. He's like, you're a little too stiff. He's like, let's go get a drink at the bar. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, let's go do a shot at the bar. He goes, I want you to loosen up. We go to the bar, I have, we have some tequila, whatever. And then he pours me another shot. So I do a double shot, 20 minutes before getting ready to go on the air, and then have another drink. And I wasn't drunk. I wasn't even buzzed on air, but it was just that's how loose and how open and how relaxed he was. And they hired us for a reason. So he trusts us to make the right decisions as to what to say, how to not, you know what I mean? And it's like, I like going out, right? So I'm a night guy, because I work at night, I'm a night guy. Essentially, I got the impression that they want me to be like how I am on a typical Saturday night in downtown Chicago, or after I'm done with the fight and I'm out with the boys, or I'm hanging out and I'm going to the nightclub or a nice restaurant, whatever. That's who they wanted me to be. So the person that you saw me on Triller is essentially how I roll when I'm off on a Saturday night and I'm running around downtown Chicago. So that's essentially who I was.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, as long as you weren't at the bar with Oscar prior, I'm sure that you were fine.
Hey, the one thing I'll say about Oscar, he's so funny, man. And I didn't see him drink. I didn't see him smoke. Oscar was just being funny and whatever.
Yeah.
And here's my deal. It's like, and I've said this a couple times, if I have $100 million in the bank and I'm a Hall of Famer and I don't have to fight for 10 weeks, let him have his fun. I mean, it's like, like he was totally nice to me and he was awesome. So I'm like, Oscar, that's all. When you're on the mic with me, I got your back.
Yeah. Now, I do have a bold prediction. I want to know your thoughts on this. So obviously Triller, is absolutely loving Jake Paul, whether the people hate him or not. They love him and they see him as a cash cow. So this is my prediction on his next fight, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Yeah. So Nick's a big MMA fan, okay? Yeah. But I never asked Nick his prediction yet on Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Now, I feel like McGregor's juice is gone. He made his $100 million. Yeah. He lost to Mayweather. He's happy with it. He left with $100 million. Now, he got destroyed by Khabib. Now, he recently just made $600 million selling his share of Irish whiskey over the weekend. I feel like his fight is and like juice is gone. So I feel like he's gonna lose to Dustin Poirier. So I feel like his next big payday is gonna be him versus Jake Paul. Depending on how bad he gets beat by Dustin Poirier, I feel like that's gonna happen maybe September. What do you think?
Oh, if that happens in September, it's gonna be bananas. Like, oh man, like even in the fall, sometime in the fall, that would be nuts. I would have to say that I think that we're maybe about a year away from that fight.
You think a year? Okay.
The reason why I say that is because the way that the fighters are sort of shaping up when it comes to their fight dates. So Jake fought in April. You look at May, June, July. It's almost 3 months. Conor's going to fight after Jake.
Right.
So he's not going to fight Conor next. And Conor's will probably take some time off. I mean, he's a family man.
Yes.
Lovely. I don't know if it's his wife or if they're
that's his wife.
It's his wife, and he's gonna have take some time off from the with the kids and stuff like that. So I think Jake will have one more fight, and then around this time next year, I could see that fight happening if Conor does lose to Poirier, because if he beats Poirier, then who knows? That's another.
Right.
He can go to another different direction and stuff. But do I want to see Jake Paul and Conor McGregor?
That'd be nuts.
Like, let's make this happen.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Nick? Like, do you think that's going to happen, or do you really think that Conor's going to get Dustin in July?
I think Conor wins in July.
Okay.
So that opens up everything for that lightweight division, right? So if Conor wins, obviously he's probably going to get the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler.
Okay.
Just because that's the way they do things,
Yeah.
Because you still have Gaethje there too. He's arguably the number one contender in my opinion. So I think he wins that fight. So what's next for Jake Paul? He was at the UFC 261 event this over the weekend, and that was phenomenal. That was one of the best events I've ever watched live. And he's doing all the right things, man. Like, I trash him all the time, man, but he's doing it. He's doing his thing. So he has so many options, right? Even he called out Usman, him and Cormier. Cormier said, "I'm not going to box the kid. If he wants to come to MMA." We all know Jake Paul's not going to go to MMA and fight Daniel Cormier.
No,
right?
No chance.
So I think, don't be surprised if, I don't know who's next for Usman at 170. He's running through everybody. And they're talking about Colby Covington, number 2, which would be an awesome fight. But don't be surprised if Usman steps out and boxes him.
That would be nuts.
I'm being 100% serious, man. I honestly think that's a possibility. But Conor, I agree with Ray. I think it's a year away is probably, it all depends, right? Obviously, there's so many things that can happen. But I think it's more than a year away.
I actually wouldn't even mind Tyson Fury's brother, Tommy. I wouldn't mind even seeing that next. Yeah.
That fight, to me, stylistically, would be bananas because they both got knockout power. And Tommy has drawn very good ratings out in the UK.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that they just see this persona that Jake puts on. I have talked with a lot of people in and around the gyms that have seen Jake spar or that have worked with him.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they tell me is that this kid's work ethic is insane.
Yeah.
He's busting his butt. He's growing and evolving. And here's the bottom line, guys. You guys follow combat sports.
Yes.
He was 2-0 prior to fighting Askren. I do fights all over the country and of all different skill levels with, on fights. And I will see a guy that's 2-0 who's on an undercard on TV, and he's getting ready to be, potentially 3-0. And he's fighting a guy who has a lopsided record, a below 500 record, who is probably a former MMA guy. why was there such a disdain for Jake Paul to fight Ben Askren, who was making his pro boxing debut, but is a multiple-time world champion in different MMA organizations? That's kind of like par the course for being a boxer. So when people are like, oh, well, should Jake fight Canelo and this and that? Are you nuts? You will never see a guy who's 3-0 unless it's Mayweather McGregor. And here's the deal with that fight. McGregor was a multiple-time and multiple division world champion in the UFC. So it's like, okay, Floyd was getting older. Connor's in his physical prime. That's why that fight made sense and they sanctioned it. But to hear, oh, Jake and Canelo, this and that, like, what? Like, I understand why Jake's taking the levels and the fights he's taking.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And you know what? Like, I caught a lot of heat after that fight. I literally went on my personal Facebook and I wrote, he's just not there to just try to collect a paycheck. Like, you could see he's putting the work in. He's got the rhythm. He's got the punches, the jab. I mean, he looks a lot better than some of the kids I've been seeing at the 2300 arena in Philly making the pro debuts. I mean, and I'm not throwing shade at anyone, but like he's putting work in. So, but like, I mean, do the fans want to see him with a little bit guy with like that could box to maybe test him? Yeah, sure, fine, that's fine. But like, yeah, like that would be fantastic if we saw him fight Tommy Fury. Like Tommy's like 5-0 with 4 knockouts. He's got a great following. Plus his brother is just made for entertainment. So he's just going to make the whole press conference and introduction stuff just a awesome show.
Yeah, I agree. And then also to the fact that, Jake Paul trains under BJ Flores and also Jay Leon Love. And, he's been sparring with Jean Pascal as a world champion, Andrew Tabini, quality cruiserweight. I think Anthony Durrell was in the gym as well down in Florida. So it's not like this guy is just beating up on people that are nobody. Right. He's in there learning and growing. And what BJ Flores told me in the fighter meetings prior to the fight with Ben Askren is he said, I like having Jake around world champions or former world champions because it's almost like a process of osmosis in the sense that this guy's going to see what these dudes are doing and he's going to absorb a lot of that information. That's what he does. Now, he's a brilliant marketer, but the kid does have natural ability and he's been proving it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the only thing that would honestly make Jake more money is that if he fights a legitimate boxer, and that would absolutely, they would crush it because people will tune in as soon as you say, oh, Jake's fighting Tommy Fury or anybody that, is a legitimate boxer. I'm not talking Canelo status, but I'm talking, pro boxer who's been doing this for a while. It will only benefit Jake Paul.
I think he can go as far as he wants to, and he just has to be smart in the fights that he decides to go into. And I think him and Tommy Fury would be a really good fight and extremely entertaining because Tommy Fury can crack. Jake Paul can crack. They're both around the same weight. I don't know what's the age. I know Jake's 24. What's Tommy Fury about?
I feel like Tommy's in his early 20s as well. I think he might be the same age as Jake, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I like that fight a lot. Now, if I had my choice, I would want to see Cormier go into the boxing ring, and I want to see Daniel Cormier and Jake Paul fight. But Cormier immediately dispelled that and is like, oh, he's got to fight me in MMA, this and that. What's the incentive for Jake to go into the octagon? There is none.
There's none.
If Cormier wants to fight, he needs to come to Triller, and he needs to get in the boxing ring and be a part of it. So that's my whole deal. I respect the heck out of Cormier and what he's done, but come on now, Daniel, like DC, let's, that doesn't make any sense.
Even UFC fighters were like Usman was on I think he did an interview with TMZ and he said, Daniel, you just got to sit this one out, man. Let me take care of it. Yeah, well, so Usman understands. And Tommy Fury is 21 years old.
Okay.
He is 21. Okay.
So Jake's 3 years older than him. And I even think it makes it even more compelling because when I was 21, I was a pistol. You know what I mean? Like I was very fiery, and I can only imagine the amount of testosterone that those two guys would have in the lead up to those fight,
I honestly just can't imagine what it's like to grow up in that Fury house as brothers. That must be insane.
Crazy.
That's crazy. So I'm gonna ask a couple more questions, and if Nick has some, I know we're gonna try to get you out of here by
Yeah, like 40, 45,
6'40".
whatever. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So we did touch up that you absolutely love boots, but I
Yes.
did want to ask, what's your perspective on all these up and coming Philly guys, and do you have some of your like favorite guys that are really like eye opening for you out of Philly right now?
I like Stephen Fulton a lot. Stephen Fulton and I go way back. I mean, I remember when he was fighting on undercards before, when we had toe-to-toe Tuesdays and we were at the Sands Casino in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. You know, Marshall Kaufman, King's Promotions.
Yep.
Big shout out to Marshall. I mean, the guy's the godfather out there in the
Yes,
East
he
Coast
is.
of Pennsylvania. Really love that guy, and his son Travis Kaufman. Really, you know, he's been able to, you know, do his thing. But I like Stephen Fulton because Stephen Fulton, I think, has fought 8 or 9 undefeated fighters. He was fighting undefeated fighters on swing fights that wouldn't make TV. And Fulton just kind of came in. He was focused. He was determined. And he just went about his business. It didn't matter to him if he was on TV, he was off TV, if he was fighting at 12:30 at night after toe-to-toe Tuesdays, if he was fighting at 4:30 in the afternoon. You got the same performance from Stephen Fulton. It does not surprise me in the slightest that he is a world champion and what he's been able to do, because this guy's been built for it. He's been bred for it, and he's put in the work. His work ethic is insane, and he's only getting better. Another thing too, guys, he had COVID. He was going to fight for the world title against Angelo Leo in August of last year, PBC's first fight back, and then he came down with COVID, and that got derailed, and he didn't let it break him. He instead went back to the gym. He's like, you know what? I'm going to work harder. I'm going to train better. And you're going to see a whole new Stephen Fulton. And I just thought you got a better version of him back in January. And I'm excited for him because he's got a big fight coming up in September. I think the winner of Neary and Figueroa. I mean, man, I'm so happy for him because of how humble he is, how great he is for the city of Philadelphia, and the fact that he's so emblematic of what being a Philly fighter is all about.
Yes, facts. I absolutely love him as a person. Like, he's actually the type of guy, like, you know, he could have all the belts at, you know, 122 or 126 right now, and he's the same person. He will still take a picture with you. He'll still talk to you. Like, he actually comes to some of the club fights. So I'm sure you've heard of him. His father was a great boxer before he had that awful accident, Rasheem Jefferson. So Rasheem Jefferson Jr. right now, you know, he fought on two top rank cards, and he's been on club shows for RDR Promotions. He's fighting next weekend. So I'm sure we're going to see Boots and Fulton Jr. there cheering on Sheem. So yeah, I mean, he's just a great guy. I also got to check out his crab store. He opened up a CBS Crabs in Chester.
No, I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, when I get to, you know, PA, I definitely want to check that out as well.
Yes. All right. So I do have 2 fun questions before I pass it on to Nick. So we usually ask this as like a breakup from like boxing and stuff. So if you could choose one actor to portray you in a movie about your life working in boxing, who would it be?
I would have to say Christian Bale, because he is so good at what he does. I mean, he's very cerebral. I love just he really appreciates the art of acting, and you could tell that he does it at such a high level. Plus, I like his style as well. I mean, he dresses well. I mean, he just has this confidence, this aura where he exudes, where you know when he walks into a room that, oh my goodness, like, you know, someone special is in the room. It's hard to quantify, but that's what he brings to the table. I love his seriousness. I love that he always brings it every single time on the big screen. And he just, you know, he's got really good attention to detail with every bit of his acting prowess.
Yes, my favorite Batman of all time, of course, is The Dark Knight. And they have set the bar for The Dark Knight Rises, so I didn't think that was that good. After seeing The Dark Knight.
And listen, he can rock a tuxedo, man. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, when he was with Bruce Wayne and, you know, those lovely ladies, I'm like, all right, I see Christian Bale rocking it as Batman. Okay. You know?
Yes. Okay. And then my last question before I pass it on to Nick is, so obviously you've been in Philly a few times, and we always ask guests that we know have been to Philly. What's your favorite cheesesteak spot when you're in town?
Mark Abrams, who you guys know, Tony Luke's is my place.
All right. I like it.
You know, shout out to Mark Abrams for introducing me to Tony Luke's. I went to Pat's and Gino's, and it was okay. It was, it was good. But Mark is like, no, he goes, you didn't really get the full authentic Philly experience. So Mark took me to Tony Luke's, and boy, oh boy, was I blown away.
Yes. Yeah, I usually do a cheesesteak Italiano. So I don't know if you ever had it, but it's like cheesesteak. It's provolone cheese, and it also has some broccoli rabe in it, and it is like heaven. when you
I'm going to have to try that next time I'm there, for sure.
All right, cool. Yeah, Nick, if you have any more questions for Ray?
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys got into it before, but obviously Floyd and Logan Paul is official.
Yeah.
Did you guys get into it a little bit?
No, we actually didn't even touch that yet. Yeah. No.
All right. So what are your thoughts on that, and how do you see that going down?
I think it'll be cool. I think it'll be fun. I'm curious to see what Floyd does, because, I mean, Logan has a 0.1% chance to win that fight. Not even 1%.
Yeah.
0.1. And look, I'm not trying to crap on the dude, because I enjoy listening to his podcast, and I think what him and his brother have been able to do has been just absolutely mesmerizing. So I give them credit. But Floyd Mayweather is Floyd Mayweather. I mean, this is one of the greatest boxers and fighters of all time.
Yeah.
And when Floyd gets focused and he's so on a different planet, I think Floyd can come back right now and probably beat a lot of the top welterweights in the sport right now if he were to come back, much less fighting a guy that professionally is 0-1. I think it'll be a fun spectacle, and I think people need to understand that when you're watching this, it's entertainment. Plus, you got a pretty good undercard. I mean, you got Jack and Jean Pascal. They're going to go at it against each other. They had a heck of a fight a couple of years ago at 175, and then you're going to get Jared Hurd back in action.
Jared Hurd's back.
And Arias is not easy to deal with either. So you're going to get a little bit of everything, but just be ready for entertainment and be ready for a spectacle in the main event. And then you got some fun fights on the undercard.
That's awesome. So I know there was some stories and some things out there in the media after I think it was the fight week leading up to the Jake Paul Ben Askren fight of Oscar De La Hoya and possibly Eddie Alvarez fighting. And now Eddie said he lost interest in it. So, and he just fought last night. Was there any truth to that? Do you know? Or
I asked Oscar on Triller, and I tried to press him if you guys watched, and he was all like, "I'm gonna fight a top guy and this and that." All I know is that from what they're saying is that it will be a marquee name. Who that is, I don't know. But I'd have to say, from Eddie Alvarez's standpoint, if Oscar De La Hoya and Triller comes calling and they want you to take the fight with the amount of money that they're offering, and you don't take it, then that's fine. But you must be really well off to not jump into that kind of spotlight. So maybe Eddie is very content and well off, and that's great. But whoever gets the call is going to get paid, and they're going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right, man. That's going to catch a lot of eyes and everything like that. And it's going to be a fun lead up to whoever gets that fight against Oscar.
And it's the day before 4th of July. So start your 4th of July weekend and party with us. Get a cookout together. Do your social distancing. If you got the vaccine, that's great.
I just got my first shot today.
Did you? Nice. Okay.
Beautiful. Have a cookout and watch Triller, and who knows what's going to happen. Guys, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm actually the commentator for Triller, so expect the unexpected.
Right. So I have a question. When Snoop Dogg was performing and he was smoking his blunt, did it fill up the entire arena?
No, kind of, but when he came and sat next to us, whatever, I was like, oh, man, this sounds lovely. But I was like, whoa, okay,
That's awesome.
He's awesome, man, on the microphone, man. He's so cracks me up.
That guy, seriously, guys, I could not believe how cool he was, because on the microphone, off the microphone, he's the same guy. Like, he is an awesome person. Like, that guy rolls out of bed. As soon as he opens up his eyes in the morning, he instantly entertains. Like, he's so good. I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit, but if you guys remember the movie Swingers, with Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn. When Vince Vaughn was early on in his career, and Vince Vaughn would tell Jon Favreau, "You are so money, you don't even know it."
Yeah, that's so money, baby.
I'm like, "You are so money, you don't even know it." Well, he probably does know it, but I'm like, "It's so money." That's how he is.
That's awesome, man. So do you Are you interested in like any UFC, or do you watch any of the cards?
I grew up in MMA and stuff. I mean, that was before, because boxing was an older guy's sport from a commentator standpoint, ring announcing. So it took me a little while to break into boxing. But I mean, I do follow the UFC and MMA. That's how I started off in combat sports.
Nice. So who's your guy out there that you love watching?
I mean, Bones Jones is so much fun to watch.
Absolutely,
I'm going to go back years ago, though. The guy that I think, I mean, I know that we're talking about Habib being the GOAT, whatever, but still, to me, the greatest mixed martial artist of all time in his prime was Anderson Silva. Because what he did, bursting onto the scene and wiping guys out, when he finished off Chris Lieben and then destroying Rich Franklin in the fashion that he did, going up to light heavyweight and making Forrest Griffin seem like an amateur when Forrest Griffin was light heavyweight champion. It was unbelievable stuff. The front kick to Vitor Belfort. I was in attendance at the Grand Garden Arena. It was insane. I love watching Anderson Silva. John Jones, though. Clay Guida is an OG. I remember commentating his fights in 2005. I still, pull for Clay Guida, the carpenter himself. So those are the guys that I like to keep my eye on.
That's awesome. Yeah, because we got we have a welterweight here right now, Sean Brady, undefeated welterweight. And he actually trains with boots on this down at his gym, down at his dad's gym.
Oh, that's great. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. Well, Ray, we're not going to take too much more of your time. We're very appreciative of you coming on. Oh, are you going to be at the Ruiz and Arreola fight?
Yeah, so I'm here in LA right now, guys. I mean, this is not my typical couch. I'm in my hotel room. I've been out here since Tuesday. So yesterday did the press conference on FS1 with Sean Porter and Mikey Garcia, and then Jimmy Lennon Jr., Heidi Androl. Today did the undercard presser. Tomorrow I'm doing the weigh-in, hosting the weigh-in show alongside Sean Porter, Mikey Garcia. And then at Saturday, YouTube prelims, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific time. We're kicking off Cinco de Mayo the right way. So get your tacos, get your guacamole, you're 21 and over, get your beer, your cerveza. I'm a Modelo guy, so have the Modelos chilled for me. Enjoy that for me as I'm working, and get ready for madness, guys, because I'm going to tell you this. The pay-per-view card is loaded from top to bottom. You're going to see some freaking scraps. These guys are going to throw bombs at each other. Get ready to party and get ready to watch two guys. Look, the main event, not going the distance. The co-main event, if you were ringside, don't wear white because there's going to be blood all over the place. That's what that fight's going to be. The second to last, the second fight on pay-per-view, Fundora and Jorge Cota. Fundora stands 6 feet 6 inches tall. This kid wants to tear your head off.
Yeah.
And then Jesus Ramos is a guy and 20 years of age. He's fighting Javier Molina, 2008 Olympian. Ramos can crack, but Molina's crafty. We'll see how that fight goes. I'm pumped for this entire card. I'm actually going to go get some sunglasses because I forgot mine, and we're going to have to be out in the sun a little bit. But we're going to get ready to rock and roll, guys. Saturday, the pay-per-view, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific time, and it's $50 cheaper than your normal pay-per-views. Let's rock and roll.
Yes, and then also for those watching, we do have a Jersey guy on the card. The Cornflake Tommy LaManna is fighting Lara for the super lightweight. It's the middleweight, right?
It's a middleweight championship
middleweight.
fight. What's funny, LaManna said today during the press conference, he goes, I'm going to knock out Erislandy Lara. And then I asked Lara, I'm like, what do you think of that? He goes, yeah, he could try that. He goes, I'm going to knock him out. Lara said, I'm going to knock out LaManna in 4 or under. And I'm like, man, they're both predicting knockouts. I like LaManna a lot. Good kid from New Jersey. He believes in himself. But for him to say, I'm going to knock out Erislandy Lara, that takes some stones, guys. I can't wait. And that's on Fox at 7:04 Pacific time.
All right, guys, we're going to let Ray go. Ray, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you. We're going to share you the video, and our new reorder shirts should be in my hands tomorrow, so we will mail you out a podcast shirt.
Awesome. And then, guys, on social media, SBR Flores. The one thing I'm doing now more than ever before, when we are at a fight or press conference, whatever, I try to take you behind the scenes. So follow me on social media. I'm going to take you behind the scenes. You don't know who's going to pop up in my videos or whatever, but SBR Flores on Instagram and Twitter. Check it out. Behind the scenes access the way we only know how to do. So check it out, guys. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work, and hope to visit with you in Philly sooner rather than later.
Of course.
Ray, thank you.
Of course.
Later,
thank
guys.
you, Ray.
Take care.
All right. He is
Hey,
so
and
cool.